Fate's gentle whisper, a love beyond borders. David adjusted his backpack and took a deep breath as he stepped onto the cobblestone streets of Paris. The city, with its historic charm and endless possibilities, felt like a dream come true. He had always wanted to study abroad, and now, with a scholarship at the prestigious Sorbonne University, he was living that dream. Jennifer, on the other hand, had arrived in Paris with a different goal in mind. Born and raised in New York, she had always felt a deep fascination with French literature and culture. Studying at the same university as David, she immersed herself in poetry, philosophy, and the mesmerizing beauty of the French language. They first met in a quaint little cafe near the university. Jennifer was struggling with a pile of books, trying to balance her coffee while flipping through her notes. David, noticing her predicament, stepped forward. "Let me help you with that," he said, offering a warm smile. Jennifer looked up, her deep brown eyes locking with his ocean blue ones. There was something about his voice, gentle yet confident, that made her heart skip a beat. "Thank you," she replied, smiling back. From that moment, their paths kept crossing at the university library, in the gardens of Luxembourg, at the old bookstore by the Seine. It was as if fate was whispering to them, urging them closer. One crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the wind, David and Jennifer found themselves walking side by side along the river. "Do you ever feel like some places were meant for love?" Jennifer mused, gazing at the shimmering reflection of the city lights on the water. David chuckled. "Paris does have that effect, doesn't it?" She turned to him, a soft smile on her lips. "Or maybe it's just the company." David felt his heart race. He had never met someone who made the world feel as alive as Jennifer did. There was a quiet magic in her presence, an unspoken connection that words could never capture. Over the months, their friendship deepened. They shared their dreams, fears, and the little things that made life beautiful. David told Jennifer about his childhood in London, about his love for music, and how he once dreamed of becoming a pianist. Jennifer, in turn, shared her passion for writing, how she had always wanted to pen a novel about love, the kind of love that transcends time and distance. One evening, as they sat by the Eiffel Tower, David pulled out a small notebook. "What's that?" Jennifer asked. "It's a song," he admitted, a little shy. "I wrote it, for you." Her breath caught in her throat. "For me?" He nodded, flipping through the pages. "You inspire me, Jennifer. Every moment with you feels like a melody, something beautiful and fleeting, yet unforgettable." Tears welled in her eyes. "David." And then, without thinking, without planning, she leaned in. Their lips met in a soft, tender kiss, one that spoke of all the unsaid words, the unspoken promises. From that night on, they were inseparable. They explored every hidden corner of Paris together, danced under the moonlight, whispered sweet nothings in cafes, and wrote love letters to each other, even when they were just a room apart. But love, as beautiful as it is never without challenges. As the end of their study abroad program approached, reality began to settle in. Jennifer had to return to New York. David was expected back in London. "Why does time always move too fast when you're happy?" Jennifer whispered one evening as they sat on the rooftop of her apartment watching the stars. David exhaled, his fingers brushing against hers. "Maybe because happiness is never meant to be ordinary. It's supposed to be fleeting, to remind us to cherish every second." Tears slipped down Jennifer's cheeks. "I don't want this to end." "It doesn't have to," David said, his voice filled with determination. "We'll find a way." And they did. After months of long-distance calls, love letters, and stolen weekend visits, David surprised Jennifer one snowy evening in New York. She opened the door to find him standing there, holding a bouquet of white roses. "Paris was just the beginning," he said with a grin. "I want a lifetime of adventures with you, Jennifer." She laughed through her tears, throwing herself into his arms. "I love you, David." "And I love you," he whispered, holding her close. And so, against all odds, two hearts that found each other in a foreign land refused to let go. Their love story was not just about a romance in Paris. It was about the kind of love that defies distance, time, and uncertainty. A love that once found could never be lost. The end. Romantic vocabulary, 5 words to express love and emotion. Here are 5 beautiful words from the story, along with their meanings and example sentences to help you understand and use them in real-life situations. 1. Whisper, verb noun, meaning to speak very softly or quietly, a soft or hushed voice. Example sentences. She leaned in and whispered a secret into his ear. The gentle whisper of the wind made the evening even more romantic. 2. Mesmerizing, adjective, meaning extremely attractive, captivating, or fascinating. Example sentences. Her mesmerizing smile made his heart skip a beat. The view from the Eiffel Tower was truly mesmerizing. 3. Fleeting, adjective, meaning lasting for a very short time, temporary. Example sentences. Happiness is often fleeting, which is why we must cherish every moment. Their time together in Paris felt like a fleeting dream. 4. Unspoken, adjective, meaning not expressed in words, but still understood or felt. Example sentences. There was an unspoken connection between them, something words could never explain. They exchanged unspoken glances, knowing exactly what the other was thinking. 5. Inseparable, adjective, meaning always together, unable to be separated. Example, since they met, they had become inseparable, spending every moment together. Love makes two hearts feel inseparable, even when they are miles apart. A love beyond borders, questions and answers. Here are 5 thoughtful questions and answers related to the story, Fate's Gentle Whisper, A Love Beyond Borders. 1. Where did David and Jennifer first meet? David and Jennifer first met in a small cafe near their university in Paris, where David helped Jennifer with her books. 2. What made their relationship special? Their relationship was special because they shared a deep emotional connection, understood each other's dreams, and found beauty in every little moment they spent together. Why did they have to separate? They had to separate because their study abroad program ended, and Jennifer had to return to New York while David was expected to go back to London. 4. How did David prove his love for Jennifer? David proved his love by staying committed despite the distance, writing her letters, visiting whenever possible, and ultimately surprising her in New York with the promise of a future together. What is the main message of the story? The main message of the story is that true love knows no boundaries and can overcome time, distance, and challenges if both hearts are willing to fight for it.
A love blossoms in Paris. It was a crisp spring morning in Paris, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and freshly baked pastries. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a soft golden glow over the cobbled streets, while the Seine river gently flowed, mirroring the early light of day. Paris, known as the City of Love, was living up to its name as couples strolled hand in hand along the riverbanks, their laughter and whispers adding to the magic of the city. Amidst this idyllic setting was Claire, a quiet, thoughtful woman in her late 20s. She had always dreamed of visiting Paris, and after years of saving and planning, she was finally here. The city had always held a special place in her heart, a place she had longed to explore ever since she read about its romantic charm in countless novels. Her friends back in London had often teased her about her love for the idea of Paris, calling it a hopeless romantic's dream. But Claire didn't mind. She had always believed that if love were to find her, it would be in Paris. With a camera slung around her neck and a guidebook tucked under her arm, Claire began her day wandering through the Jardin des Tuileries. She was captivated by the vibrant tulips in bloom, their petals dancing in the gentle breeze. Every corner of the garden felt like a postcard waiting to be captured. As she moved from one flower bed to the next, framing the perfect shot with her camera, she felt a sense of serenity she hadn't felt in years. But Paris had more in store for her than just scenic beauty. As she made her way toward the Louvre, Claire stopped to admire a street artist who was sketching portraits of passers-by. His talent was undeniable. Every stroke of his pencil seemed to bring his subjects to life on paper. Intrigued, she watched him work for a while, her attention completely absorbed in the way his hands moved with precision and care. Suddenly, she felt a tap on her shoulder. "Excusez-moi, mademoiselle," a soft voice spoke. Claire turned around to see a tall, handsome man in his early 30s standing before her. He had a warm smile, and his hazel eyes sparkled in the morning light. His dark hair was slightly tousled, giving him a casual yet charming appearance. "I'm sorry to bother you," he continued in perfect English, "but I noticed you've been admiring the artist for quite some time. Are you an artist yourself?" Claire smiled, slightly embarrassed. "Oh no, I wish I were. I just love watching people create. There's something magical about it, don't you think?" The man chuckled. "I couldn't agree more. I'm Leo, by the way." "Claire," she replied, shaking his hand. "Are you visiting Paris for the first time?" Leo asked, his curiosity piqued. "Yes," Claire admitted. "I've dreamed of coming here for as long as I can remember. And now that I'm finally here, I don't want to miss a thing." "Well, if you don't mind a bit of company, I'd be happy to show you around," Leo offered. "I've lived here for the past 5 years, and I know all the best spots, the ones the guidebooks don't always tell you about." Claire hesitated for a moment. She was usually cautious about accepting invitations from strangers, but there was something about Leo that felt different, safe, genuine, and kind. "I'd love that," she finally said, her heart racing with excitement. As they wandered through the streets of Paris, Leo took Claire to hidden gems that were off the beaten path. Quaint little cafes, secret gardens, and art galleries tucked away in quiet corners. They walked along the Seine, talking about everything from art to life, from their dreams to their fears. With every passing hour, they found themselves opening up to each other in ways that surprised them both. Leo shared stories of his own journey, how he had come to Paris from Italy to pursue his passion for photography, how he had fallen in love with the city's vibrant culture, and how he had found a second home here. Claire in turn spoke of her life in London, her love for literature and art, and her longing for something more than the routine of everyday life. As they talked, the world around them seemed to fade away. The noise of the bustling city grew distant, and all that remained was the sound of their voices and the soft murmur of the river beside them. By the time the sun began to set, casting a warm orange hue across the sky, Claire realized that she had never felt more at ease with someone she had just met. Leo, too, felt an undeniable connection, a spark of something special that had ignited between them. "I don't want this day to end," Claire confessed as they stood on the Pont des Arts, watching the boats pass by on the Seine. "Then it doesn't have to," Leo replied with a smile. "There's so much more I want to show you." Over the next few days, Claire and Leo spent every moment together, exploring the city as if it were their own private playground. They laughed, they shared secrets, and they found joy in the simplest of things: a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, the sound of street musicians playing in Montmartre, the sight of the Eiffel Tower glowing against the night sky. As they sat on the steps of Sacré-Cœur one evening, watching the city lights twinkle below, Claire realized something she hadn't dared to admit before. She was falling in love. And it wasn't the kind of love that came with grand gestures or sweeping declarations. It was quiet, subtle, and deeply rooted in the connection they had built over the days they spent together. But with the end of her trip approaching, Claire knew she had to face the inevitable. Soon she would have to leave Paris and Leo behind. On her last night in the city, Leo took Claire to a small, candlelit restaurant in Le Marais. The atmosphere was intimate, with soft music playing in the background and the scent of freshly baked bread wafting through the air. As they sat across from each other, both of them were aware of the unspoken tension, the knowledge that their time together was coming to an end. "I wish I didn't have to go," Claire whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Leo reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You don't," he said softly. "Paris will always be here, and so will I." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes as she looked into Leo's. She knew that what they had was rare, something people spent their whole lives searching for. But the reality of their separate lives loomed over them. "I can't ask you to stay," Leo continued, "but I hope you know that you've changed my life, Claire, and no matter where you go, a part of you will always stay with me." The next morning, as Claire boarded her flight back to London, she couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and hope. Paris had given her something she hadn't expected, a love that was pure, genuine and entirely unexpected. And while she didn't know what the future held for her and Leo, she knew that their connection was something that transcended distance and time. As the plane took off, Claire glanced out the window, watching the city of Paris disappear beneath the clouds. She smiled, knowing that her heart would forever be tied to the city where her love story had begun. And perhaps one day, she would return to Paris, not as a visitor, but as someone who had found her true home in the heart of the city of love.